Welcome to the Temple Afric TV, your show préféré Point of View. I'm your host, Mr. Herman. Today we're gonna talk about the bank. For that reason, we have today our host, Mr. Alun Sam. Good afternoon, Mr. Alun.
Good afternoon, everyone.
As you always be our guest to the show, and today we're gonna talk about banks, and we want you really to explain to our view what really means a bank.
Thank you, Herman, again for having me in this show. A banking system is maybe, I would say, 400 years old. It's a system that was born in old Europe, and it's a system that was born with the goldsmiths. So what was happening was people were bringing gold into this goldsmith, and these people were giving them a certificate that they gave them back that said, if you bring this, this is the value in gold that we have for you here. So people started getting those certificates and exchanging them within themselves. So instead of coming back to the goldsmiths, they were giving it, let's say, I need to pay you, I give you that certificate, and that became now what we call modern currency. And those goldsmiths became now what we call the modern banking system that we see. So that's pretty much the birth of banking system as we see it today.
As far as today we live in the modern whole world, that means the technology changed, things have changed. People are not exchanging gold with the certificate now. Now we see we go to work and we get paid, and some of us get direct deposit to your account in the bank, and some of us get the check, and which one you have to go to the bank to exchange that check, so you can get the money, that the currency money that we can use, so it can help us, to do our transaction whatever we want to do. But the bank today, how many kind of bank do we have today?
Banking is very vast and large today. We have what we call commercial banking, where you deposit your checking, savings, and you can do CDs and other forms of transaction, IRAs and stuff like that. And then we have what we call investment banking. Investment bankings are the people that finance, companies, the people that provide investments where you buy stocks and stuff like that. So you do have those two types of banking in the US, what we call commercial banking and the investment banking side. What you people like you and I use is the commercial banking. That's where we go. Oh, sorry, there is another type of banking that we call mortgage banking. The mortgage banking is still a division of the commercial banking, but those are the ones that finance just properties. If you're buying residential or commercial properties, you go through what we call mortgage banking. So there are those three types of banking institutions that exist in the United States overall.
So from that three types of banking that exists especially now in the US, and people like us, when I say us, I'm referring most of the time for us like Africans, we use the one you call commercial bank. So which one we got our check, we go deposit and we get the money. So can you tell us exactly how that commercial bank works, and what do we get from those banks by us going deposit our checks over there?
Good question. Most people now, to facilitate transactions, still need a checking account at the bare minimum. You can facilitate making your payments online. With most banks now offer you free bill pay, where I can pay my utility bills through my checking account. I can facilitate transaction through a checking or a money market, and people need at least a checking account to show that, because the US is steering away from cash. So because to avoid bad money, what we call dirty money, like the drug money coming in, so they like now people to use electronic exchange. So now you can pay with your phone, you can pay with your credit cards, but you can leave trails. You can have direct deposits where the money goes directly into your account, or you can deposit your checks into those accounts without having to go through what they call those pay day, where they charge you almost a second tax,
Yeah, yeah.
which is very expensive. So most people, I would say, you have to know how much is in your account, because you cannot overdraft that account too. Those are very expensive charges.
That's why it was supposed to be my next question, because especially for us like Africans, you know, we like more like cash money. When I say cash money, when I go buy something, I spend my money. The balance they give to me, I put in my pocket. I know exactly how much I got, how much left. As far as you just talk about doing those exchange, like, you know, you go to the bank now, it facilitates to pay your bill online, to pay your you know, your light bill, or your house on the line, or your apartment online. We lose track seeing how much balance we have, because we kind of, okay, think, it's okay, think, it's okay. And once we lose that, we go overdraft, and most likely we don't like those charges overdraft. Why don't the bank just give us a break? Like, you know what, do what you think you can do with your money, and if you need help, come to us. Why they have to facilitate all that? Don't you see like the bank gets something to gain inside that?
They do, but modernity is like you have access through your bank account, through your phone, or through your and it's insured. So even if somebody had what do you call it, went into your account and illegally, there is insurance that the banks take to pay you back, that they don't charge you that. But on any transaction on a daily basis, you can go into your account online and see what the balance is before you spend the money. It's not because you're not seeing it. Yes, a lot of people make that mistake of overspending without knowing how much money they're spending, because they're not checking their accounts. But online, you have to know exactly every day what the balance is and how much you're spending. This also records where your spending patterns are. Meaning that at the end of the month, I can say, oh, I spent this much in gas, because the bank has a copy of everything that I spend in gas. And every month they give you a report where your money went. So you can budget how you spend and pay attention to the patterns of where you spend your money. You know, oh, I bought coffee, I didn't pay attention. How much dinner or how much money you spend in food and all that. So it tracks it. It tells me, it gives me a graph. Or this is out of $100, you spend $25 in gas. You spend this much in grocery. So at the end of the month, I know exactly how much that is. You know, it's not something that is, you know, that I don't have control over. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, I get your point, but from us African, what we do most of the time, we lose track. We lose track to see, like, okay, this is how much money I get my check, and I'm gonna spend it this way, and this is what I'm gonna get, and this is what I'm gonna spend. But for us really to sit down to balance our checks, to see like, you know what, this is what I need, and this is what I'm gonna do, and this is how much I'm gonna do. It's kind of hard for us. And what you're telling me, like, we have to check on a daily basis to make sure, like, you know, you balance your check, and you balance your I mean, you do the balance between your spending and your saving, and at the end of the day, make sure you don't go overdraft.
Correct. You always have to have a clear idea how much money is disposable to you at any given time. It's not because you're not seeing it that it's a bottomless well.
That's why we really want to see it as Africa. We want to see our money. Like, this is my money. I want to see where you're going and where you go. That's why I think really we have a problem.
You could deposit the money, and if you're used to cash and it's easier for you to control it through cash, you can withdraw the cash. Some people, what I suggest to some people is I take, let's say, $200 every week in cash, and I know for a fact that that's the maximum, that's the budget. I cannot spend more than that. If you don't have control, because everybody is different, we cannot give an answer for everybody to say, okay, this is how you should do it. Some people have to control their budgeting through cash. You still have a checking account. At the end of the week, you go once a week, you withdraw $200 from the bank. You cannot spend more than that $200 because that's your budget. That's the amount of money that you can spend. If it's gone, it's gone. Then you have to wait until the next week, until you get your other paycheck. Because that forces you to control your spending habits. Because some people cannot control it. Some people have good habits, say, okay, you know what? Once a week I'll buy gas. That's it. Once a week I'll go to the grocery store. That's it. But some people go in the grocery store twice, 3, 4 times. Before you know, though, every time you go in, it's $50, it's $60. By the time you know, though, you're overspending. And you're losing track of how much money you still have in the account. And then you spend, now they hit you with hard fees if you go over how much money is available into your account.
Okay, I'm gonna go back on that one a little bit. As far as you say, you have to control your spending. Controlling your spending, how do we can control our spending if we just don't know how much we have on a balance? That's the question for us, especially African, because we have to be very careful on this one. When it comes to your money, you have to know first of all, like how much you got. As Alun said, how much you got available for you. And you have to budget for yourself to know exactly like what I'm doing now is gonna benefit nobody but me. I like what you just explained to our view, but also I want you to emphasize a little bit more when it comes for us to go banking. What do we get from us to go to the bank to do all our transactions to the bank? What do we get as a customer from the bank?
In real terms nowadays, you don't get a lot of returns in terms of depositing money into the bank. Even if you have a saving account, it's less than 1% returns. So you don't really, for them using your money, you don't get a lot out of it. But it's close to impossible in today's world to live in a modern world without having a bank account. You do not live in today's world without a bank account, because you have to leave trails. Everything is dependent on that. If you want to travel, you have to have a debit card that you use sometimes to buy a ticket online, or a credit card. So
as we was talking earlier with Mr. Alun, what do we get from the bank as be a customer from the bank, especially us as African people? What do we get from the bank, be the bank customers?
Thank you again, Herman. Like I was saying earlier, you cannot in modern life exist without having a bank account. It's just because life in America right now is tied to that. If you don't have an account, it's very, very difficult to handle a lot of the transactions, because the system is moving more and more away from cash. So it's becoming more electronic money exchange, which now, in real terms in the US, I would say only 3% of the exchanges are done through cash. Most of the other exchange is done through electronic banking. Yes, we don't get a lot of returns in terms of the money that you put in the bank. So the bank works with your money, but you don't get much from it. I think on a saving account right now, it's less than 1%. It's 0.something% returns a year in terms of the money that you deposit there.
So that's the big question, because now we can see like the bank really and the government, they create the system so they can try to control our money. Because if my money I put in a bank for all year and I only get like 1% interest, it's better for me just to keep my money with me, get it cash with me and use it wherever I want to use it, instead of that go put that in a bank while the bank benefit from that money, because I'm pretty sure the bank getting something from a deposit. They wanna, I'm deposit to the bank.
That is very true. The bank works with your money. So you give the bank your money for the bank to lend you back your money. So the reality is, it's a system that we have to understand. We cannot be outside of the system. We live in America right now, so we have to live like people that are in America. So what I suggest to people is, let's say you have a checking account where I keep every month my paycheck. I can decide that every transaction, every week I will pull, let's say $200 that I will spend for whatever spending. Then I'm not leaving my trails. But if you do not have a bank account, you're penalized. So there is a tax that, unfortunately, if you don't play with the rules, that it will cost you more than what you expected. So unfortunately, yes, you don't have a lot of returns. And that's what I always suggest to our viewers, to use the tontine system. What I call the tontine system is, what do you call it?
We call it like a restoring, putting your money together with some friends.
Exactly.
And make interest for
Make interest. It's a loan that is interest free. So we lend to each other but that has a better high return than putting your money now in the banking system. And the way that functions, and I think most African countries have that kind of system,
Yes.
where a bunch of people get together and say every month I will all put $200, and every month somebody picks, have a turn, and if we're 10 people, every 10 months I would have my turn to get that money. That helps in savings. It helps also when you have crises to be able to take care of them. If you're looking to build, buy a house or do different projects, it's a good way of saving, because it forces you, like you putting your money on your 401k, it forces you to remove that money from your account because you don't have access to those funds anymore. So you're forced to save. So those are different tools that are available right now that our viewers can use in order to be able to
So
improve.
those are the only things that our VUE can use, especially as African, to use those systems. It's going to help us at least to get something back from the bank. Thank you for that. Let's go move on to the next one. The next type of the bank. You was telling me earlier, like the bank of investment. Can you really break down what means the bank of investment?
Investment banking are people that would borrow your money or take your money and say, we'll give you in return X amount within this time frame. So for example, Target sells stocks, and I have $1,000 that I don't need today. I buy a stock from Target. Target is at $30 right now. I'm gambling that Target in a year or two would be at $35. So on every dollar that I invested there, I'm hoping that I would get X amount in return. So investment banking is anything that is related into buying stocks and selling it. So those are the Merrill Lynch, the Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo Financial. So you have different banking institutions that have an investment side to it.
As African, living abroad, like living in the US or wherever in a part of the world, which one is not Africa, you think like it's very important for us to use those type of banking?
It's more complicated. So I would say the simpler form of investments starts with your 401k.
Which one is?
Your 401k is allocate your funds that you allocate from your paycheck. It could be 5% of whatever you make, and your employer will match it depending. Some employers will match you up to 3, 5, or 6% at the most. But that would be the introduction to that, because it requires a little bit more understanding of how the financial system functions in the US in order to participate in it. But I would say at the basic level, this will have another show most probably to talk about this. But I would say at the basic level, at least, participate in the checking account format first. Because, like I said earlier, we have 3 forms of banking in the US. There is the commercial, which is the basic checking and savings. We have the investment bankers, and then we have the mortgage banking. The mortgage banking will have a show about that, is, if you want to buy a house, how it functions, and all that other stuff. But I would say at least at the bare core, we will talk about how to bring people stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, because they're all important part of our lives here in the United States.
As all our view, you heard what Mr. Alion just said. Like, we're gonna have a show, and they always have our invitation to come back to explain to us exactly what really means investment bank. I mean, the one you invest your money in the bank, also the mortgage bank, those kind of the banking. Like, it's gonna break down to us step by step, so we can have a better understanding how we can invest to get to the next level to invest our money. For us today, we thank you very much for being with us, and we thank Ms. Alun for being our respond to our invitation today. And for us African, we live on this country where we came with a dream. For us to realize our dream, you got to be up a day, every day, to make it happen. The banking system, it depends on you, as Mr. Alun said. It depends on you how you want to be successful. But with a little bit help that one Temple Africa give us, so we can communicate with you, we can talk to you, it may help you and your family to make a good choice, to make a good placement, a good investment for yourself and your family. We thank you for staying with us, and we appreciate you being with us. Thank you, and thank you again. That's our show for today, and we're gonna see you next time. Stay tuned with Tempo Africa TV. Good evening.